I'm standing outside of Oracle Park, and as I record this, it is 10:51 p.m. last night, if you're listening to this. And it's subdued as this improbable 2021 season comes to an end. The team with the best record in the regular season is going home. I'm Matt Pittman. This is Bay Current for Friday, October 15th. Among my guests today, a pair of Giants fans, a pair of Dodgers fans, and a familiar voice you may also call a baseball historian, adding perspective to what an incredible run we all witnessed. Just outside of the left field gate, I caught up with Johnny and Nabil, two Giants fans from right here in the Bay. And these dudes were clearly bummed out. First, they didn't even want to talk. But by the end of the conversation, it was like a big group hug. It felt like spring training would start tomorrow. What happened out there?
I mean, we all watched it, right? It was a great game until the end. But
I mean, in many ways, no matter like who would have won, that was a pretty fitting, finish to a Game 5. This rivalry, these two teams. Is it too early to ask if you're able to reflect on this being a pretty classic all-time game?
All right, let me put myself outside of my body, my angry body, and You're right. In some future tense of where I'm able to talk about the things that just happened right now in front of my eyeballs, it probably was a classic, but so was the last 1-0 before the last Game 4. You know what I'm saying? 1-0,
Sure.
bro.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
What a ride. I mean, this whole entire season.
Sure.
I imagine it had to more than exceed your expectations.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the first time they faced each other in the playoffs, right? So it's one of the greatest, series legacies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything,
Right.
playoff run. Both teams playing so great all season long. First and second team in the league. Amazing season.
Yeah, you know what?
At
least they got to face off each other,
absolutely.
for the
First time in the
NLDS, bro.
playoffs
That's
in their history.
cool. That's
ever.
cool.
Is that what they were saying on
In the postseason? Yeah.
Thank you for helping us see the other side
See,
of the
this
rainbow.
is what I do. I don't tell people that when I ask them to interview, but I'm basically a therapist with a recorder. Is all I am.
It's like my barber.
Yeah.
I go to get a haircut and I'm like,
Oh, he's gonna be mad tomorrow, bro.
I'm gonna let some demons out today, Satan.
So on that note, again, let's end on a positive note here, right?
Yes, please.
What are the one or two positives you'll take from this year into next year? Johnny, I'll start with you.
You know what? I had to learn this lesson when I was really, really young. There's always next season.
Yes, sir.
It's the truth. It's the truth. There's always next season.
Right.
And if I have to give my baseball analytical opinion on something we should have done differently or what I can take positive from this season into next season, drum roll, please. I'm not sure. Honest to God,
Right?
I'm not sure. I'm literally...
But how good a place does that feel like when you think about it, right? That's a pretty good spot to be. How many other seasons have ended where you're like, I don't know, we can do better next year. Let's just roll it out again.
It's true. Every
season ever.
Nabil, what about you? What do you take away as the biggest positives that you saw from this team this year?
Man, I feel like the whole team had one of the best seasons they've ever had in the history of the team.
Yeah.
Really great run, record, the whole season. I'm just glad I got to be here. It was a great time,
Absolutely.
I'm glad I got to experience one of the most amazing games in both of these teams' franchises,
I'll be honest. I was prepared to be selective if I was going to talk to any Dodgers fans. Hey, Dodgers fans, nothing against you, but come on. Right after a win like that and maybe a couple adult beverages, I was going to be selective. So I ended up sending a text to Nick Palmer, a KCBS colleague. He was at the game with his buddy, Travis Zachary. I got to point out that the hat you're wearing, I love that hat. It's from the Baseballism store, which is right across the street from the home plate entrance. But the hat is a microphone, and it says Vin in the greats of the old school style microphone, obviously an homage to the great Vin Scully, who today tweeted that he believed, and as far as I believe, Vin's word on just about anything is gospel, And he said this was the biggest game in the history of this rivalry, both coasts, New York or San Francisco.
I would agree.
Did you feel that way coming in? And I mean, right now with the win.
I felt that way coming in. I mean, especially this year, the two best teams in baseball. And, I mean, both teams had 106-plus wins. First time they've ever played in the playoffs. I can't think of a bigger game that these two teams have played.
You're right. You can't argue with Vin. He knows it all. He was there in Brooklyn, so he's got the history on us for sure. I mean, I thought going into it, definitely the biggest game ever on the West Coast. But there might still have been a game on the East Coast that people could claim. Now, after everything that went down, I think it'll go down as, to this point, the greatest game in the rivalry.
Because, I mean, this game had everything. If you're a baseball fan, this game had everything. It was a one-run game. The go-ahead run was scored in the top of the ninth inning off of a closer who had a brilliant season for the Giants. And then, you get the tying run on base with one out in the ninth inning. I mean, it literally had everything.
Well, we've since the game ended about 20 minutes ago, we've both been texted by all these people that are watching the game on TV. We couldn't see anything on the last call.
We couldn't see the final call.
We can't see
he swung
or not.
He swung.
So what I was going to tell you is that all of my friends, Dodger or Giants, say he didn't swing.
Really?
And so the Giants fans will be saying he didn't swing forever now. Like, that will go down as the lore of the game.
Yeah.
I get 100% guarantee it. There's nothing else.
Even the drama before the game, like at 1 p.m. when Dave Roberts announced starting pitchers and it wasn't going to be Julio from the get-go.
Yeah.
And that just got all the Dodgers fans questioning.
And that is some gamesmanship at its finest. That is you're the only 20-game winner in baseball. A guy who's been just nails against the Giants, and the strategy obviously paid off for Dave Roberts.
I mean, totally. But also, Gabe Kapler did the right thing, too. Like, I think a lot of fans, we look at it so, like, blame, like, how could you not start Julio, the 20-game winner? Like, we're playing checkers. The people that are actually doing the moves are playing chess.
Yeah. You're clearly informed baseball fans. Aficionados of the game, if I could even say that. Dodger fans, sure. But you both live here in the Bay now. Follow this Giants team all year. Just almost by osmosis. Yeah. They had a hell of a year. Kind of out of the blue.
A year nobody expected them to have. Yeah. It was supposed to be the Dodgers and Padres.
The whole season they defied expectations. They kept doing it. And then September 1st, the Dodgers took first place for the first time by themselves, like I think the whole season. Mm-hmm. And immediately, the next game, the Giants tied them back up, and then they never were out of first the rest of the season. I think we all waited. We were all waiting for them to finally not be as good as they were this year, but they were.
So let me ask you this: as Dodger fans, when you look at what the Giants are going to take away from this season, their manager in his second year did some remarkable. He knows what he's doing out there. I mean, he can manage a pitching staff. He can ride the hot hand if he's got a guy who's just raking up at the plate. He'll find a spot for him in the lineup and at the plate. They've got money to spend in free agency, too. They had the emergence of Webb. They've got an ace now. They scare you a little bit going into next year, Nick?
Oh, for sure, because they also are going to have money to spend.
Yeah.
They're going to re-sign Chris Bryant, potentially. They're going to bring in another pitcher. I mean, this team, they're following the Dodger model in a way, and they're looking good. They're getting rid of all their veteran cash. They're going to be a threat, for sure.
I was going to say, talking to all my Giants friends, this rivalry with the way that the management is going after farm league and young players and getting rid of older players, it's the next handful of years, this rivalry is going to be real. I think
it never goes away. It was always here.
I shouldn't say that. It's going to be much more intense if you follow hardcore Dodgers Giants.
I think back to early 2000s when the Red Sox finally won a World Series. The Yankees and Red Sox played a bunch in the playoffs those couple of years. I mean, this is where we're at with the rivalry.
Fellas, I appreciate it. Congratulations on your win. Enjoy the rest of your night celebrating.
You as well. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And while Giants Nation is bummed out, and will be for a while, keeping perspective on what we all witnessed by the San Francisco Giants of 2021 is important, and it will stay with Giants fans forever. For that perspective, I wanted to catch up with a voice who will be familiar, Steve Bitker. 20-year veteran morning sports anchor here at KCBS, recently retired and living the good life over at his home in Alameda, where I caught up with him.
If it's not the biggest game in the history of this rivalry, it's one of the three biggest. And you know what the other two were.
So I'm going to guess
in Brooklyn and New York.
Is that the shot heard around the world game?
That's it. 1951, third and final game of a playoff to decide the National League champions. And the Dodgers led 4-1 going into the bottom of the ninth inning. And the Giants at the Polo Grounds came back with 4 runs, the last 3 on a Bobby Thompson home run to win 5-4. And then just 11 years later in '62, now it's San Francisco and L.A., and the Dodgers led 4-2 going into the top of the ninth inning at Dodger Stadium, which was just 2 years old at the time. And the Giants come back with 4 runs again and win it 6-4. So in terms of the San Francisco-L.A. rivalry, this is one of the 2 biggest games ever. There's no question about it.
In terms of what makes this year so special for Giants fans and in the history of the organization, this kind of did come out of nowhere. There's a lot of unfamiliar, names and faces to folks maybe outside of San Francisco. There's not that mega superstar. There's not a Barry Bonds. There's not a Willie Mays. There's not a Jeff Kent. There is Brandon Crawford's an all-star player. So Chris Bryant is a Buster Posey for sure. But this team seemed to really take baseball by surprise. But at the end of the regular season, they had the best record in baseball. Second-year manager in Gabe Kapler. How significant are those sort of factors that this isn't one of the marquee teams coming out of spring training, yet here they are?
It makes it all the more incredible. I mean, the over-under on the Giants this season, I believe, was 75. And I think if you look dating back to when they started over-unders on win total, this is the biggest separation we've ever seen. Most wins versus over-under. It's not even close. So, that makes it all the more incredible. The Dodgers have the marquee names. If you asked any baseball expert around the country or, fan of not just one team but baseball in general and combine the Dodger and Giant rosters, you'd have Dodgers at almost every position.
Oh, sure.
And your top 3 pitchers would be, in no particular order, Walker Buehler, and maybe a healthy Clayton Kershaw would be in the mix, and Julio Urias would be in the mix.
Whether you're a diehard Giants fan or just can appreciate kind of the different, beautiful elements of sports, if you will, that when a team comes together and those fan favorites are kind of organically made, it's not because they went out and hit 50 homers. It's not because they went out and won 25 games.
They didn't even hit 30.
Right. It's just because they were part of a team that none of them were gigantic superstars. A guy like Buster's towards the end of his career. Just a lot of special individuals. When they all come together, sometimes magic happens.
The story of Lamont Wade Jr. to me personifies it as well as anyone. I remember when they acquired Lamont Wade Jr., and I looked up his numbers, and he hit, about 240 and nearly 100 at-bats with, I think, 3 home runs with the Twins over 2 years. I looked at his AAA numbers, and they were a very pedestrian 240 or 250 with a little power, and I just kind of rolled my eyes, and I said, it's Farhan's acquisition of the day, and he'll probably never play in a Giants uniform, or if he does, he'll be a very pedestrian backup outfielder. It just seems like every string they've pulled has worked this season.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me over to Alameda. You heard our guests making the impromptu appearance, the Ducks in the background. They're having a great day here. It's beautiful out here.
We are in bucolic Alameda, one of the best kept secrets in the Bay Area. And whatever we say about Alameda, we're exaggerating tremendously, so don't think about moving here.
Steve, thank you.
You're welcome.
And it'll take us out with the sounds from around the ballpark one final time. That's Josh Klein. You've seen and heard him posted up outside the left field gate with the accordion. Hotel California seemed appropriate. And so did Weezer's Say It Ain't So. My thanks to Nabil, to Johnny, to Travis, and my KCBS radio colleague Nick Palmer, as well as the great Steve Bitker. And thank you for listening to Bay Current. If you haven't already, please subscribe on the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Have a relaxing, fun, safe weekend. I'm Matt Pittman. We will chat with you on Monday.